What's going on, Pirates Nation? Oliver Nissi, team insider for the Mass Pirates here. Coming your way now is the recorded episode for this episode 7 of Pirates Weekly. Leverett Ball and I sat down with defensive coordinator and secondary coach Rayshaun Kizer, and here are the questions we asked him. Hope you enjoy. We're ready to rock and roll on this edition of Pirates Weekly. It is episode 7 now, and Leverett, we have our first coaching guest. It is defensive coordinator and secondary coach Rayshaun Kizer. And I started that opening saying rock and roll because, Coach, you spend the off seasons in Cleveland, and that's where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. So you into that type of music?
Really not into it, but it's down the street from me. So I have been a couple of times. It's pretty interesting museum.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And I know you're not into that, but I know something that you are into. Back, I'd say about 3 weeks ago, you made your Pirates social media debut, and you're talking about a Christmas movie. You pointed out that The Christmas Story is your all-time favorite. I'll be the first to admit I had not seen that movie up until this Christmas. I got a chance to see it like one day leading up to Christmas, and it was really good. And I'll tell you my favorite part, and I want to hear yours. Maybe you agree. It's when he gets his tongue stuck to the pole.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's favorite part. When he get his tongue stuck to the pole and the teacher looking for him.
Yeah, well, and Coach, I have to ask you, what's your take on the Browns' performance this season and Baker shutting up some of the haters with that playoff performance?
Loved it. The whole town went crazy when we won. We needed it for the city of Cleveland. I feel like it was a good win for us. Not actually getting to the playoffs, but actually being a rival like Pittsburgh Steelers. So that was a good first win for us. Hopefully we can sneak out another win in Kansas City.
Well, and I noticed you're wearing a hat. I don't know if you saw the clip of Baker Mayfield. A reporter criticized him for wearing his hat backwards when his post-game press conference. He showed up with it facing frontwards, turned it backwards midway through. I'm kind of on my toes. If you're a Browns fan, I'm on my toes for you to flip it around backwards at some point during the interview. Maybe if we tick you off.
Yeah, I'll probably do that towards the end.
Fair enough.
So, Coach, you're a big Browns fan, and this is a huge season for them. First time make the playoffs, I believe, in this millennium, or since 1999, if that's true.
1998, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, for us, I know Leverett grew up in the Baltimore area, but I grew up in New England, and it feels a little weird without the Patriots in the playoffs, I have to say. But would you say that the Browns are your Super Bowl pick, and if not, who is?
I wouldn't go that far to say the Browns is my Super Bowl pick, but I feel like any of these 8 teams in the playoffs can actually get to the Super Bowl. They can represent the AFC and the NFC. I feel like coming out of the AFC, Kansas City might take that one. And I feel like coming out of the NFC, New Orleans got the best offense and defense to take it in the NFC. But I'll tell you one thing, the only thing that might hurt the New Orleans Saints if they got to go up to Green Bay and they get some terrible weather up there, that can make an effect, which could put Green Bay over New Orleans.
Well, and in the postseason, like you said, any team that's left could win. Sometimes it's not even a matter of who the best team is. It's more, who the hottest team is. But, from your, experience playing professional football, I know, you got a taste of the NFL. You went to camp with the New York Jets. You also played in the CFL in China, and then also some indoor ball in the U.S. But throughout any of your pro stops, did you win a championship on any of the leagues you played in?
No, never won a championship. I've been in multiple championship games, but we always came up short. So hopefully we can get one with the Pirates.
I was going to say, maybe your first championship could be as a coach for the Pirates in their first season in the IFL. That'd be a great way to, welcome the franchise to a new league, no question.
The goal is always, to get a championship. If you're not coming to an organization to compete for a champion, I really don't know what you coming there for, honestly. So always the goal to compete for a championship.
Yeah, and going off that point, Coach, I know you're new, or you've been with the Pirates for over a year now. You were originally hired for 2020 season, and it's taken some time to get on the field. Hopefully, we're going to get there this year. Looks like we will. But I'm not sure if you're familiar with the city of Worcester in their professional football history, but they don't have a champion, the city of Worcester. I mean, I know the Massachusetts Pirates, it's the state of Massachusetts. But, for just talking about the city of Worcester, where the Pirates are headquartered, they had the Massachusetts Marauders back in the late 80s, early 90s, lasted about 5 years. They had the New England Surge in 2007, 2008, played at the DCU Center, just like the Pirates. What do you think? Maybe it will happen this year, maybe not. But if a championship was brought to Worcester, Mass Pirates won the IFL championship this year, what do you think that would mean to a city that has never had a professional football championship?
I think it'll mean a lot. Any city that gets the championship is obviously a big deal. Hopefully we'll be able to celebrate a parade even with all this pandemic. So, I mean, it'll mean a big deal to the city of Worcester. I feel like they deserve a champion. All cities deserve a champion. And hopefully we'll be the ones that give them a champion.
Well, you mentioned the pandemic. This past year has definitely been a weird one, through 2020, now heading into early 2021. And like Oliver said, you were actually signed to work on the coaching staff last season. Then obviously the season wasn't able to happen. And just about everyone I've talked to, whether it's in sports or other professions, have talked about what a weird and challenging year it's been. But what was that time like for you, initially thinking that you were going to be in Worcester coaching and then having all that downtime?
Well, I knew it was a good chance that it wasn't going to be a season when I came up there. So we just took the little gamble, and it didn't work out for us, unfortunately. But luckily, I was able to sign back with the Pirates for 2021. So I mean, we're looking forward to competing in the IFL and the new league.
No question. And, I can't imagine how much excitement there is, for any team heading into a new league, but especially considering the circumstances, having to take a year off and now heading into a new league. I mean, I expect a lot of hard hitting in the season opener. Everyone's going to be fired up and ready to go. So, fortunately, Oliver and I won't be out there. We'll be hiding in safety off on the sidelines with the media team. But I think the guys are going to be ready to rock and roll, like Oliver said earlier.
They definitely will. I mean, these guys haven't played football in over a year, so I know a lot of guys are itching to get back on the football field. Yeah, it's gonna be a competitive season. I mean, all teams are stacked. All teams got a lot of talent. You can't take no team lightly this year. I mean, Bismarck is gonna be our first game, so I'm familiar with that coaching staff over there, and I know they're gonna come ready to play. So we got to be ready to play as well.
And Coach, sticking with that Bismarck game on April 2nd, the first game for the Pirates this season. You coached out there. You're the defensive coordinator in 2019 under head coach Rod Miller. You have a relationship with him. If you were to pick one area where you might have a leg up in that matchup, what would you say it is?
Oh, let's see. Well, I know Rod for a long time. I knew Rod since 2013 when he coached me in Philadelphia. So he was my DB coach in Philadelphia. So I can know how he thinks. I know how he operates. And he kind of know how I operate as well. So we're going to both have insights on each other. So it's pretty much going to be, whoever prepared their team the best for that first game, pretty much going to come out victorious.
Well, and also I wanted to ask you, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the Pirates are stacked defensively, and there's a lot of talent. Oliver and I, in one segment of our videos, before we started doing interviews, we kind of went through position by position, and we were just really impressed by how much talent there is on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you have, the sack king, J.D. Griggs, his last time in the IFL led the entire league in sacks, not just his team. Then in the defensive backfield, I mean, as a former DB yourself, I'm sure you're excited to see, guys like Wooten and Lewis Jean, guys who have played at the NFL level. But with all of the, well-known defensive players you have as a defensive coordinator, who's a player who's maybe not as well-known and maybe Pirates fans aren't excited for, but will kind of catch people by surprise? Maybe a younger guy who's not as well-known, but you think could have a breakout season.
I like Reggie Howard on the D-line. Played a 3-tech nose guard. I love what I've seen on the film from him. I think he'd be a surprisingly good player for us. Also in the back end as well, I think Santos Rodriguez, he'd be a good player for us. And I also feel Harlan Miller, another player that nobody don't know about, that could be a good player for us.
Well, you just put them on the map there. Anyone watching this video is probably going to follow them on all the socials. But yeah, I mean, and maybe also with all the talent I talked about, maybe teams will really try and game plan for some of the more well-known players and kind of sleep on those guys. And that will, similar to an offensive player, if they're not covering him because they're, doubling or tripling, a star player, I think, those guys will have more opportunities. So, yeah, it's going to be scary to see what the defense could do. No question.
Definitely. Gerard did a great job finding talent. We're pretty stacked on the defensive line. Very happy of what we got working with up front. We got 2 good linebackers, and we got a very experienced secondary as well. A lot of NFL experience coming in that back end.
And Coach, we just pretty much named all the defensive backs signed, but I don't want to leave this guy out. A name we left out was Arian Maxey Penton. He's probably one of the smallest of the bunch, 5'9", about around 180 pounds, but he lit it up in college. He played in the SEC. He started as a true freshman at the University of Missouri. His senior year, he was first team All SEC, going up against guys like Amari Cooper for Alabama. So, I mean, what do you think? Maxey Penton, who might be a little undersized, and he's going to be in the defensive backfield. It's crowded in there. It's Harlan Miller, a former NFL draft pick, Wooten, another former NFL draft pick, Rennell Hall. Jawad said that he might see some time in the defensive backfield. I'm not sure because that's probably going to be your call or Coach Pass's call, but it's crowded in there. What do you think Maxey Penton can do?
I forgot about Penn. He's another star. Had a great career in the SEC at Missouri. He's somebody we highly expect him to come in and play right away. So he's another player that's going to be under the radar, but we got high expectations for him. Also, Chucky Williams as well. We can't forget about him. Physical player. I love the way he played the game. So we pretty stacked in the secondary. I can't wait to get in camp and see what all these guys can do.
Yeah, and also at the linebacker position, I know there's a specific linebacker. Oliver and I are both excited to see play this coming season. And Oliver, I'll hand this one off to you. I know you were excited about a signing at the linebacker position, a gentleman with quite a bit of NFL experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure Pirates Nation knows his name by now, Martrell Spate. He was a recent signing added to the linebacking core. I mean, before he was signed, you just mentioned Coach Chucky Williams. I believe he might see some action at linebacker this year, along with Tavares Dantzler. They were the only 2 linebackers signed, and I feel like when Spate was signed, it really solidified the linebacking core. And before I get your opinion on Spate, Coach, one more thing on Spate is that he has 4 times more NFL experience in terms of games played. He's played 37 career NFL games, 4 times more than Harlan Miller and Al Lewis Jean. So what do you think about Spate?
I like Spade. I actually had a conversation with him the other day, and I like his mentality. Like I say, he got a lot of NFL experience, so I know he's going to bring that to the table when he comes to help pretty much the young guys and teach them how to be professionals as well. And we need that leadership on defense. I know we got JD and RJ on the defensive side, but we also need somebody in that linebacker position that can help lead that defense as well.
And what's that adjustment like, going from, outdoor to indoor? Obviously, like you both mentioned, he's a former NFL guy, now moving over to the IFL where the rules are a little bit different. I mean, I know for you personally in your career, you went to camp with the Jets, you played in Canada, you had that outdoor professional experience, and then you also played some indoor ball yourself. So whether it was for you or now, Spate coming over from the NFL, what's it like moving from the outdoor game to the indoor professional game, and how hard of an adjustment is that?
I don't think it's that hard of an adjustment. The biggest thing is you got to get used to the walls. Smaller area, smaller field, so you got to get used to the moss creeping up on you because they creep up on you fast. That's the biggest adjustment coming indoor, and I think the game is a little faster indoor. Balls coming out quicker. Your reaction time got to be quicker. And you got to be more physical. You got to win your one-on-one matchups because in this game, it's a one-on-one game.
Talking about those walls, Coach, you're going to be in the IFL, a league that you're familiar with, and you've played against already some of the teams that the Pirates are going to be playing against this season. In your opinion, what will be the Pirates' most challenging matchup this season? Against which team?
Well, you always got to respect the Arizona Rattlers. Sioux Falls, I mean, them the champions, them the teams that kind of been setting the bar high for the IFL. So between those 2 games, Spokane, they got a pretty stacked roster over there. I know Billy Back, he'll do a good job with them. I know Clint Dozell down in Frisco, he had them boys ready as well. Everybody will be good this year. Like I said, it ain't it's a lot of competition in the league. I know we got a stacked roster as well, so it's a lot of competition in the league. You can't take no team lightly. Everybody's going to be good.
Well, also, I touched on, your career a little bit as a player. Like I said, you played in a few different leagues, whether it was in Canada, in China, indoor in the U.S., NFL. But and I know, Oliver and I talked a little before, you were someone who intercepted a lot of passes when you played, and, you were someone who went for it and made the big plays defensively rather than playing it safe. With everything you learned from your various stops as a player, how do you translate some of those lessons to your players? And also, do you want your defense now as a defensive coordinator and DB's coach, do you want your defense to play with kind of the same mentality you had and maybe take those gambles and try and force a lot of turnovers?
Definitely. We in a turnover business. We got to create turnovers on the defensive side. That's one thing I'm going to harp a lot in training camp. We got to get them turnovers. That's the way to win games. We got to win a turnover margin. And, yeah, we got to take chances. I was real big on taking chances, but a lot of it came from film study. I mean, that's where a lot of it comes from, film study. You got to know your opponent. And once you study your opponent and you know what's coming, the game comes very easy. So you just got to be able to make the play when you're there.
Yeah, and it's so much fun watching, DBs with that style. And like you said, interceptions come from film study. One of my favorite football stories of all time was Ed Reed talked about how the week before the Ravens played the Colts, he intentionally left a guy open on a certain play because he knew the next week they're playing the Colts and Peyton Manning liked that specific play. So he left a guy open in his previous game so that Peyton Manning would test him on that same play the next week and then intercepted him. Ed Reed, talking about an NFL Hall of Famer, he was on another level as far as his football IQ. But, I think DBs, you would know better than I would, if you pick up on quarterbacks' tendencies and offensive tendencies, you're in the right place at the right time. And yeah, it's so much fun. And the fans love it, with the interceptions, the pick sixes. That's one of the most exciting parts of the game. So, we're really looking forward to seeing the Pirates pick off some passes this season, no question.
It all starts up front, so we gotta get pressure on that quarterback. You can't win games in this league if you don't pressure the quarterback. So we got a good D-line in front of us, so get pressure on that quarterback, make it easy for the secondary.
Absolutely.
And Coach, we've been talking a lot of football. I'm going to take a step back and, ask you, it's been a long off season. I'm not sure. We were talking earlier about the Browns and, you got other sports in Cleveland, got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like we talked about at the very beginning of this episode. But what other stuff other than sports and football have you been up to in the off season?
I've been training a lot of kids this off season and really just working out, watching a lot of film, sharpening up my game on the IFL and putting in new defense schemes and plays and whatnot. I've been talking to Coach Snay as well. We've been putting together our playbook, so we're just getting everything underway.
Well, you mentioned also, training different kids in the off season. What are your long-term goals as a coach? Do you see yourself staying in the indoor game or maybe trying to move over to the NFL? And do you prefer being a position coach or do you want to eventually, become, position coach and coordinator, or do you eventually want to, become a head coach someday?
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to become a head coach. You want to obviously run your own team, your own way. Right now, I'm comfortable being a defense coordinator. I want to get good at being a defensive coordinator first before I take any hymns at being a head coach. And then eventually, the goal is to make it to the NFL. Obviously, be on the NFL roster at some point. That's a long-term goal. But short-term, right now, I'm comfortable in an indoor game because this is where my heart at the most.
Well, and we're here in the New England area. Bill Belichick's getting closer to 70. He can't coach forever. Maybe if you do some big things in the IFL, who knows? Maybe we could say we interviewed you way back in the day.
Yeah, anything's possible. It's all about the networks, connections, and knowing the right people.
Absolutely. So, Coach, obviously we've talked about, your football experience, but, some of your skills on the football field, were they honed playing other sports? What other sports did you play growing up? And did you ever, I've talked to a couple of different Pirates players who said they nearly ended up playing college basketball and giving up football. But for you, did you have any other sports that you considered pursuing, or was it always football, football, football?
I knew based on my height, my size, my weight, football was probably the best route for me to get a scholarship, I'd say, going into college. And that's what I focus on the most. I love basketball as a kid. Obviously, I think all kids love basketball more
Mm-hmm.
because it's not as physical as football. And I ran track to get faster, but I was really good at football. I knew I was good at football. So that's the path I chose to take going into college.
So, Coach, we talked a little bit about your playing career, how you were a guy who took risks, caused a lot of turnovers. I brought up Ed Reed, a guy who kind of has that style. And I don't know if he's someone specifically who you looked up and tried to emulate. I mean, a lot of guys do. But as a coach, are there any head coaches or D coordinators at any level of football who you particularly look up to and maybe try to emulate? And do you have any influences when it comes to your coaching style?
I really don't. I want to kind of create my own coaching style. I know as a player, some coaches I respected along the way. One of them will be Clint Dozell, just because of his knowledge of the game. He knew a lot about the arena football game, taught me a lot about the game. I learned a lot from him in my 3 years in Philadelphia. Trying to think of other coaches that really. Pat O'Hare is another coach. He was my coach in Orlando when I was with the Predators for 2 seasons. He really taught me a lot about the game as well. I had a lot of veteran players in Orlando to learn from as well. So that helped me as well. And I'll say Cedric Walker. I started off in Green Bay in 2009 for my first arena season, and he kind of taught me the indoor game. And that's kind of my first teacher of the indoor game. So he kind of taught me a lot about it. So I had to thank a lot to Cedric Walker for that one.
No question. And maybe you can pass some of those lessons on to, some of the new Pirates players. And, you mentioned also you want to be your own coach, but I mean, who knows, maybe someday, when we interview people, they'll say their influence is Coach Kizer. They want to be like you. So, on Pirates Weekly, we're all about predicting the future. So, yeah, we have high hopes for you.
I like it. I like high hopes, man. It's high expectations anywhere playing with the Pirates, coaching for the Pirates. So we expect to win. We expect to win big, and we expect to be competing for a championship at the end of it.
Well, there you have it. That was my conversation, Leverett and my conversation with defensive coordinator and secondary coach Rayshaun Kizer, the first coach to make an appearance on Pirates Weekly. Hope you enjoyed this episode, Pirates Nation. Be sure to follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, also on the YouTube page. We'll see you next week with a new guest.